Hell yeah. Let's forget about technical stuff and get right into the fun stuff. Cool. Episode 32 with Fredy. Is it Abrahante?
Abrahante.
Abrahante. Oh, it's Hispanic. There we go. Yeah. That makes more sense. Hell yeah, dude. I started this show just to chat with all the homies. I feel like there's been so many so many shows that we've been at, so many shoots throughout the years that just go untold. And as I was looking back through all my years, through my 2016, 2017, all the local shows or whatever, I was like, dude, we would always hang out, and it was this scene was such a scary place for me to come into. I feel like I came in as such like a outsider. I wasn't in a local band at 16. Like I feel like I just showed up at 18 with a camera and was like, hey guys, I'm here. Like, let me do something. And I always appreciate it. You're always opening with welcoming arms, and yeah, made life easy for me. So I appreciate you taking the time to come through. And appreciate you for 5 years of being a good homie.
Not a problem, man. We actually came into the scene at the same time.
Did we?
So
okay.
You were that for me as well.
Interesting. Okay, it's funny because as an outsider, I was assumed that you were a part of it forever. Yeah, you assume everyone else knows what they're doing, and I'm the only one who doesn't know what's happening.
Like I had briefly gone to shows like in the 2011, 2012.
Sure.
But then I got busy with like school and shit. And
hell yeah. Perfect. That's a great starting point.
Can I cuss on here?
Please do. Yes.
Oh,
yes. All swear words are better. So that's a great starting point. So yeah, where does this journey start for you? So for me, it starts with trying to learn guitar and realizing I like filming the guitar covers more than I like playing the guitar. But that's what I always tell people. Before that, what I don't often talk about is that I try and learn vocals for a little bit. There's a little piece where I decide like that's what I'm gonna do, and very quickly it's like, oh no, this is not for me. But then I look at someone like you, and it's like, how do you learn that? It feels like with a guitar, it's like, oh, put your finger on the 8th fret. It's like, copy. I can do that.
Yeah.
With vocals, there's none of that.
Essentially, for me, I remember just with one of my homies in high school. He had a shitty microphone and a shitty amp, so he would just like we would just do vocal covers in his garage of like Drop Dead Gorgeous, Whitechapel, shit like that.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, it started, I want to say like sophomore year of high school for me.
Okay, so
and that friend in particular. So
I assume you're a fan of the music, and then you're kind of figuring out like, how do I get involved in this? And you start
Yeah.
figuring out that screaming is the way.
Yeah, absolutely. It was like entirely by ear though.
Okay. Was
Like
there any other instrument before that, or was it straight to vocals?
Ooh, I had played a few instruments.
Okay.
Before that, I started my music. Oh, deep cut.
Hell yeah.
But when I was a kid, I used to play the flute.
Hell yeah. Okay. I played the cello through elementary school, so yeah, I feel you. Same.
Yeah. And I was the only guy that played the flute ever in the
history of the universe.
in elementary school and some middle school. So that was fun. That created an interesting experience for me.
Sure, but I assume it's also the fundamentals for music, right? It's
absolutely. I wouldn't like have any desire to make music if I didn't have like some of the awesome music teachers I had growing up.
Interesting. So it starts flute when we're a little kid. Where does it get more serious? Are there like drums, guitar, like more traditional metal instruments, or is it kind of traditional and you decide vocals in the middle of high school?
Well, after the flute, I had moved to the tenor saxophone.
Okay.
I don't exactly remember why at this point, but and from the tenor sax, I actually got used to like sight reading with the tenor sax. I couldn't really grasp it with the flute. I don't know why, but sight reading for the tenor sax came much easier for me. And but the time came, and actually this music teacher wasn't so great, but because she kicked me off of tenor sax for some reason, because I couldn't make it to a parade because I was in marching band as well.
Too many things.
Yep, too many things. I couldn't make it. I had a family obligation, and she was like, "Fine, you're not playing tenor sax anymore."
In middle school?
Middle school.
That's crazy to like demote you for doing the same thing. Like a different version of it. Damn. Were you like into it, or was it like for me, cello was an obligation. I hated every second of it, but it was like they made you take a music class, and chorus was even scarier to me. So I was like, fuck it, I'll just sit here with this thing.
It was very much an obligation.
Okay.
The music teacher at the time, she made it a chore, most definitely.
Got it. Okay. I'm surprised it didn't bitter you then. I'm surprised that you kind of kept being interested in music and gained some momentum from there.
Well, I had some really awesome music teachers in high school as well.
Okay.
Miss Smiley, R.I.P. She's no longer with us.
Bummer. Okay.
And Mr. Sibilia.
So we get into sax, and that carries you through high school. Is that kind of again? Is that a real instrument? Are you really involved in that, or are you just practicing 20 minutes because you're told to every day?
Practicing 20 minutes because I'm told to.
Yeah.
It was eventually, because of the way like the teacher was, it became so laborious that I didn't want to do it anymore. So I'm like, you know what? Here, take it. I don't need it.
And so that's why vocals are then self-taught. I guess that makes sense that you were kind of soured on formal education there.
Yeah, but it's weird because, okay, I started doing vocals in high school. Tried to get a little shitty garage band going with some friends. Ended up not doing the vocals for that because at the time all I could do was pig squeal, and that was when pig squealing was popular with bands like Waking the Cadaver, Annotations of an Autopsy. And so I ended up not doing vocals for that project. I ended up playing bass.
Interesting. Okay.
So I was also self-taught on the bass as well. So, but I never really went anywhere with it after that because it was kind of miserable.
Okay.
Like I was sitting there like, damn, I was supposed to be doing vocals for this, and and now I'm not.
And I assume you just had another friend who also wanted to do vocals, and no one could play bass. You were like, well, one of us has to fall in this one.
I didn't really fit the vibe back then. And this high school, I went between the years of 2007 and 2011. And what the scene was at the time, the swoop.
Yes.
The swoop and the Osiris, the big colorful Osiris shoes.
Oh, yeah. The glory. That's where I came up from. Hell yeah. And then what, like, talk to me about this first garage band. I love the startings of these humble bands. Of course, now we found success. We found a more adult version of this. But the 16-year-old version of it is so fun to look back on, like, just the shitty. I mean, where were you playing? What are these shows? Is anyone coming to any shows? Do you play a show? Like, what is happening here?
I think I only played a few shows with that band on bass. Our first show, which was our vocalist, he threw a birthday party in his backyard, and his dad built a whole stage for him.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, and it was a really sturdy stage, but eventually, by the time the third band came on, the neighbors were like, "Yeah, no, you're gonna have to cut this. This is done." And then a bunch of people ended up taking their instruments to another buddy's house who lived like across town, and we ended up playing in his basement.
Hell yeah! How many people? Like 20 people there? Like it's homies?
Yeah, it was. It was very much a small crowd.
Hell yeah!
And I think our actual drummer couldn't make it, so one of my best currently one of my best friends, he filled in on drums for us. And but we didn't actually become like friends until like 2017.
That's funny how those things start off. Yeah.
So it's just this kid I knew who just hopped on drums.
That's funny. Is that Shane?
No, it was my other friend Ben Nicholson.
Hell yeah. Okay. What makes you like stick with it from there? I mean, it doesn't sound like a very glamorous experience. It sounds like you're all kind of figuring it out. But I mean, what is something in there clicking you? Is there a moment in there that stands out as like, oh, this is something I want to keep doing, just not with these people, not in this group?
I actually didn't do another band for the remainder of high school, not until till after I graduated. I did a couple things. I did one thing with a friend I had met going to college at his Nuntuck. Jammed with them briefly. It was just a drummer and another guitarist. We never actually got to play a show. We just like practiced every weekend, but it never really went anywhere because we couldn't like find a full band.
Yeah.
Couldn't find a bassist that was willing to commit to it, so it just like dissipated.
Sure. And you didn't want to get stuck playing bass again, so
yeah,
lucky to hand that one off. Hell yeah. When does it first become real then? So you said throughout the rest of high school, you're back playing traditional music. Yeah, more orchestral music. So when does it first become a first real band? What was your first venture there?
First real band was the one in high school when I was on it.
Okay.
When I was playing the bass. Very terrible. We were a shitty garage band.
Sure.
And we practiced in his basement, so a basement band.
Sure. Define shitty. What you were all bad at your instruments, you were all out of time, looked different, music was bad? What's shitty in hindsight?
I would say that it was a shitty band because, okay, so
Here we go. There we go.
I don't want to knock on young musicians.
Of course.
Because it takes a lot of courage to do what we do as musicians and performers, to get up on that stage and do our thing.
More courage than I've ever had, which I think is also worth noting here. It's like, yeah, it's incredible what you guys do, and that's how I got here, is by admiring.
Yeah, especially if you're a young musician, like at a young age, high school. Like I've seen like middle school kids play bands at shows, and I was like, damn, where was this when I wanted to do this?
Yep. Yeah, there's something much easier about getting on stage when 2,000 people in the crowd already know who you are. And when you're 16 and you're already scared of just being yourself, and now there's not even anyone in the room to kind of support you. It's just an empty room where you have to go up there. Yeah. Having said that, though, in hindsight, yeah, what fell apart? What wasn't so great?
I don't know. I had made a new group of friends at the time, and I was hanging out with them a lot. And I stopped going to band practice, and eventually they just replaced me on bass with another guy, which is understandable, as I've come to learn.
If you have marching band practice, yeah.
I mean, they still never played any shows after that, so
there you go. You're the glue.
I was the only bassist,
the only one in the whole state until Justin Brown came along.
Justin fucking Brown.
So then you get out of high school, and where does it start to become more? Where do you first find people that kind of feel like the right group of people to build a band with?
I actually, so my first official band doing vocals was with the Green Invaders.
Hell yeah, okay.
They were a band for like, by the time I'd met them, like 6-7 years at that point. So, and people already knew them, and their vocalist was leaving, and I had met their bassist at the time, Nick Roberts, who I'm still friends with, and he told me he played for the Green Invaders, and he knew that I had some. Sorry.
No worries at all.
He knew that I had some vocal experience.
I remember, you're always doing guest spots. You're always involved on vocals. Yeah.
And so he was like, hey, our vocalist is leaving, and I know you do some vocals. So come try out, and I'll bring you around the guys, see how they like you. And initially how I had met Nick was I knew he did recording as well, and I wanted to audition for another band. The words we use. So, and it was a terrible audition. It was fucking abysmal. Like
I just had a flashback the other day of, when I'm trying to learn guitar, I go on Ultimate Guitar forums or whatever. I'm trying to find bandmates. Yeah, I remember submitting submissions of guitar, and like I want to find them so bad because they must be like horrific. Like I could play like three Days Grace songs total. Like I have no idea what riff I was trying to write and send to someone to join their band, or how I was recording it, but I'm sure it was horrific. And
exactly. The audition process for that was that they sent the stems of a song, and they had me write lyrics out to do over them and arrange them in a vocal pattern.
Okay.
And it was very much the beginning, very beginning stages of me starting on my path as a vocalist. And it was very like bad. I'll just say bad.
Sure. To this point, had you just been like screaming in the car? Like, what did practice look like up until this point? You said you never had you written lyrics before, or was it just kind of sing along to your favorite songs?
I had dabbled in a little bit of songwriting at that point, and but yeah, I would say that that was my primary.
Sure. But I mean, it must have been good enough to get you in the door then. I mean, they took you on board. Yeah. For some reason, and here I am. And what year was that, or when was that?
2017.
Hell
so
yeah.
like maybe no. Ooh, 2015.
Okay.
So here I am 8 years later.
Awesome. And then does that take on like fire? Is that like yeah, they were already kind of going when you joined the band. So how was that process?
Yeah, they were already a band by the time I had jumped on board. Their vocalist had left because he moved to Chicago, I believe. And so they brought me on, and they very much dug my vocal style, and it definitely needed work at that point, of course, as any starting vocalist would need. So they made me into the vocalist I am today.
Awesome. What does that like learning process look like? I think I kind of touched on it earlier of like, yeah, on a guitar, I can tell you to put my finger on the 8th fret. And as I'm getting more, I can, you know, slow the BPMs down and slowly do it. But with vocal cords, I don't understand that learning process. So they kind of take you on as a diamond in the rough, so to speak. And now it's been a process of polishing you in the last 7 years or whatever. What does that process look like? What does practice look like for you? How are you actively trying to better this craft?
Well, initially, how I had started out was it was very much me learning about my own capabilities by pushing myself to the limit, and like how loud I can scream, how loud I can talk, like how much I can control my breath, like just pushing myself to the limit until I couldn't do it anymore. And then just it's like a muscle. You keep exercising it, and eventually you got a solid muscle to work there.
Is it like is it very focused and intentional practice? Are you sitting down from 6 to 6:30 and saying this half an hour is dedicated to practice, or is it more casual? What is the structure kind of there?
For me, it was kind of more casual because you had mentioned earlier like practice screaming in the car. I did a lot of that. I grew up in a household where you couldn't make a lot of noise, or else someone else would get very mad.
Sure.
So yeah, just anytime I could when I was driving or whenever I had the time.
That makes sense, and that vocals would also become associated with your escape, as you're free of the home stressors, that you then have this freedom that you can both be loud, which is rebellious in the context of the rules, but also just an expression of what you already enjoy, and it's kind of this perfect symphony then of what you enjoy doing and what you can't do.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Interesting, cool. So you joined
Interesting dichotomy.
Yeah. And then you join the Green Invaders, and now you have a home for these vocals and a place to kind of work on them and build them. How did that compare to your previous bands? You've been playing bass in kind of a less structured band, I guess maybe we'll call it. Would this feel like a next step? Was this suddenly like you were now in the big leagues and kind of over your head? What was?
Yeah, it was like completely night and day because like I said before with that high school band, we only played like a couple shows, like one at like a in the back of a garage somewhere in like South Windsor, and our vocalist's backyard and our other homie's basement. So like to go from that, not playing in a band for maybe 6 years at that point, and then being the front man of a band who plays out, it's like night and day.
And I assume musically they're a huge step where I don't know what the high school band sounded like, but I know what the Green Invaders sound like, and that's not something simple that you just acclimate to and arrive there. Like, I mean, that's a hard shoe to just step up and fill.
Looking back on it, I would categorize that band as like a progressive power violence mix.
Okay.
But still, it was terrible.
Yeah. But then, it must be challenging then to get up to the levels of the Green Invaders and get up to, the speed they're already moving at, because it's such an advanced level they're working at.
Yeah. And at that point, they hadn't, by the time I had jumped on board with the Green Invaders, they hadn't really done much. They had put out like a demo or two and a couple shitty like MySpace recordings. So they wanted to take the next step, and with the shows that we were playing, that only solidified it for like Sean and the others that we should record like a full LP, or as close to a full LP as Collapse would be or become.
Hell yeah. So that's 2016, I believe that comes out. Awesome. So what is that? Hang on. Before we get to the record, do you remember your first show with them? Is your first show with the Green Invaders then?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I'll never forget that.
Please, yes.
It was May of 2015. Okay. I had
I could feel the trauma
yeah.
building.
Yeah. Oh boy. We were playing at Cherry Street Station down in Wallingford. I don't know if you've ever been there.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's a tiny little dive bar. But speaking of Cherry Street Station, we've played that venue more than any other venue collectively as a band.
Hell yeah.
And I'm blown away with some of the shows that I've seen there. And but that's neither here nor there. Solid little venue. It's like Green Invaders' home. And so the first show I ever played with them was at Cherry Street Station. We were headlining, which I was super fucking excited for at the time, but looking back, it was terrible because I didn't know, like, headlining at that point, I wouldn't be going on till midnight.
It's got to be the most anxious thing watching everyone else do their thing, and you're just sitting there going, I'm not next. I'm not even next. I'm like 12 next.
Yeah. And
everyone expects most from you. And if it's your first show as a vocalist, you're not used to controlling the crowd in that sense and all the in-between song stuff that happens.
Well, with some shows that I found at Cherry Street Station, the shows start later.
Okay.
But the bands who generally play last are the locals because they want to get the touring act through there and paid, and they don't want to keep them too late because they wanted to. Yeah, so that they would put a local on as the closer. I guess headliner isn't the right word. It would just be a closer.
Sure,
you close out the show. So
Interesting.
So you wouldn't be going on till midnight.
That's even worse than
yeah.
You're not even like going on after other locals. You're going after someone who has already done this thing very well, done it professionally, done it full time, and now is your first show. You have to go up there and be like, "So what's up, Wallingford?"
Yeah.
Better than this guy who's done it.
Yeah. Oh, as I would come to learn over the years, closing at Cherry Street is not a position you often want to be in.
Sure.
Because you find yourself not getting home until like 2:30 in the morning if you're like me, who was playing in Wallingford and lived in the northern part of the state, Windsor Locks. So,
damn. Does anything else stand out about that first show? So yeah, it runs late. You get this kind of weird headlining set, but do you end up hitting the stage, and does the stuff on stage go to plan-ish? Does it go reasonably well?
It was great.
Okay.
That was a show I'll like never forget.
Okay.
And I remember it so distinctly just because of like everything that I was feeling at the time. Like, this is my first show with this band that I'm fronting, and everything that I've been working for has led me to this point. And which really, looking back, was only the start of like doing this, being a vocalist and screaming nonsense into a fucking microphone.
That trips me out is that I think the first show there is a perfect example of like the first show is so scary, and I've never played a show in that sense. I've filmed a music video playing guitar, so I think that's as close as I can get without being on stage. Like I've had some sense of that build up and the weight and the thing is happening and someone's gonna watch, and the part there that's crazy to me is like that only gets harder and crazier and scarier. And it's a strange thing that you look ahead to that first show and it's like, oh, I'm going to do that and then it's going to be fine. And it's like, no, in a month, you're going to be trying to play a festival for the first time. And the crowd now is, instead of 100 people, it's 1,000 people. Now you're trying to figure this out. And it's just that same feeling just keeps scaling and repeating itself. There's an interesting phenomenon there to me of like, okay, just try and be comfortable then when that scary thing comes. 'Cause it's like, no, this isn't even that scary and it's only going to get scarier. So you better find some comfort here.
Oh, absolutely. It's interesting that you say that now. Yeah, looking back.
Yeah.
Holy fuck.
So 2015, 2016, we play that first show. We kind of get underway. The record comes out soon after.
Yeah, because we had recorded our first album with Chris Wiseman from Currents, and we just vibed with him very well, and
Chris Polgarin was here recently, and he was talking about Chris Wiseman and what he obviously Wiseman is a very respected producer. Like, yeah, he's done great, but I am not musical enough to really understand what makes a producer great. I don't quite understand the difference between 10 great producers and what each one of them is good at. And Chris Polgarian was saying that Chris Wiseman is really good at taking the idea from your head and putting it into the computer. And I thought it was a really interesting thing. And you're saying as you really enjoyed working with him, you kind of resonated with him. I assume it's a similar thing, that he was just felt like it spoke your language somehow.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I often find it hard to gather words into describing certain experiences. So, but yes, that very much sounds like the experience that we had with Chris Wiseman.
That's cool.
And he would never like settle for a vocal take that would satisfy like anybody who like just didn't care. He was like, "Can you do it better?"
Interesting.
Like, yes, Chris, I can do it better.
Was that ever tiring? Like, obviously, it's the right thing to
it
do,
did. But he really pushed me to like get the best take that we possibly could. So I'm really appreciative to him for that.
Hell yeah. Is there like a point of diminishing return there? And feel free to help yourself if you want any more, anything else. But with the guitar example, it's like I can play the solo 100 times and like my fingers aren't going to get tired enough that I can't play it, but your vocal cords will wear down over the course of the day. So as he's saying one more take, is there a part in the back of your brain going, I don't have one more take?
Oh, yeah. I think it was when we had recorded Cataclysm, because that was... Oh, excuse me. We had recorded Cataclysm, I think either started recording it or finished recording it on Christmas Eve of 20... yeah.
That's a good time to do metal, yeah. Hell yeah.
Of 2015.
Okay.
And I just remember going to my family's Christmas party afterwards, like just, I'm doing okay. Like, are you okay? You don't sound okay. I'm like, no, I just screamed into a microphone because like my producer really pushed me to be all I can be.
That's funny. Damn. Does anything else I know about that recording process? So I assume my understanding is that Sean is kind of your evil genius behind the scenes of cooking up a lot of stuff. So I assume you arrived at the studio with stuff kind of laid out, and the studio is just finalizing and getting stuff arranged perfectly, but that you arrived there with stuff pretty much done.
Yeah. Well, by the time I had come into the Green Invaders, the only lyrics that we kept from the old vocalist were from our song Intel.
Okay.
So all the other lyrics that like for Paths of Progression, Destitute, Cataclysm, Mars were all written by me and Sean and the other members as a collaborative effort.
Okay.
So what the songs started out as before I had joined ended up becoming something very different by the time Collapse came out.
That's cool. Okay.
And they had been sitting on those songs for like 5 years at that point. And the songs that we're currently working on, we've been sitting on since 2017.
I was going to say, yeah, that was a couple of years ago. It's been some time since then.
Yeah.
Wrapping up that record, for people who haven't heard that record, what is a song on it that they should start with? So someone listening right now would pause this and go click song.
Like a song to just like,
what is
the Green Invaders all about?
Yep.
For that record, either... Ooh, it's a tie between Cataclysm and Mars.
Hell yeah.
Because Cataclysm very much demonstrates our ability, or very much reminds the listener, like, hey, yes, this is a heavy band. They can make a breakdown. And Mars is very much they have melodies, and it's melodic.
Yeah, it's a really diverse sound. I've always enjoyed watching the Green Invaders grow, and it's exciting to think that there's other growth coming in the future. I know I watched Sean was on a podcast. Where's my little note here? Sean was on a pod. You mentioned future stuff. So Sean was on Tales from the Soundcheck podcast, and I watched some of that just to get a sense of what you guys been doing on, what was going on. And so you mentioned the new music. One thing he said that stuck out is that there was a catalog of, I think he said 200 songs-ish. And so I assume that, as we're now coming to 2023, it's been 6 years since the last record. I assume the process now is culling those 200 songs into the 12 that make the Green Invaders, or is that 200 songs that are now in the garbage and there's an album being written?
It's 200 songs that get thrown back into the mix, like because those are all like this legendary Sean Shaw backlog of his goes back about 8 years.
Damn. Okay.
Because there was songs that we were working on in between like Collapse and what we're doing now, but there was so many more before that, and he has like other projects. I don't know if he mentioned it on the other podcast. He has a solo project called The Observer Effect.
Okay.
And it's just all his instrumentals. Like he has he's got recordings out there of it, and it's just the most out of this world, out of your mind shit.
Interesting.
And we have an even greater backlog because, like I said, the songs we're gonna be releasing we've been sitting on since like 2017 and workshopping them, but these were the ones we decided to release. But he's also been like just non-stop writing,
Interesting.
like all through the pandemic, writing.
Is that how your brain works too? I mean, I assume you're involved in some of these songs in one way or another, whether it's vocals or helping him with feedback on a melody or whatever the details may be. Do you also have like a trove of vocal stuff or songs you've written? Like, do you have your own collection of songs, or is it all the Green Invaders where your creative energy lies?
I have some stuff that I like write down in my little iPhone notes app to myself, and I have stuff like occasionally I'll come up with like a lyric that's either like, oh, that shit's deep or that's hard, and I like try to write it down in the moment so I can save it for later and either use it for Green Invaders or Burying Point.
Hell yeah. So you've got like a list of sentiments or so that are in your phone, and then you can kind of scroll through. Interesting. Last question on the Green Invaders then. Also, Sean, one thing he said here, and I'm quoting him directly, is that there's a massive project coming soon that he couldn't talk about. And I don't know how, obviously I'm sure you're aware of it, and I don't want to pick your brain and force you to say something you can't say. Is there anything more that we can say about that? You've alluded to that there's new music, but when he's talking about new project, it sounds bigger than music. And I'm very curious of like, I have some friends who are working on a music album, and they have like an animated series going alongside with it. So I've been really interested of like, how much bigger than music can this thing go? How can we stretch and pull this thing? Is there anything you can share with us about what that massive project coming soon is, or should we leave it at music and move on?
So what I can say is that, yes, we are working on something pretty massive right now that we can't talk too much about. Of
course, yeah.
But we do have a single out. We put one out a while ago, I think either during 2021 or 2022.
Okay.
Called Change the Future. And that it's one of the songs on there, but the production has gone through some changes since then.
Okay.
And it's going to sound unrecognizable from Collapse.
Hell yeah. Okay.
The only appropriate analogy that I can make without giving too much away,
of course,
is that, okay, so here's Collapse. It's a little drawing drawn by a child. And here's the stuff we're working on. It's the full-on Tupac hologram.
Got it.
Yep.
Another dimension, which I guess is fitting for the name.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what that comes together as. Is there a timeline we can hope to see more of this come together in the next 6 months? Should we see more of it? Is this years in the future that we'll learn more?
Hopefully not too much longer,
okay.
But we are hoping to start releasing stuff and get it out there by like next year.
Hell yeah. Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
So very eager.
We're working hard, and we're nearing the home stretch. So.
Hell yeah! I'm looking forward to seeing what comes together there. Yeah, like I said, I've been interested in this idea, and I guess I was gonna pick your brain more, but I'll let you get off on that. But yeah, I'm just curious on this idea of how much bigger music can get, and I think with the social media age, we started to see music becoming it's a personality thing, right? Like being a part of being a musician is being a social media figure, which is like a part-time job of music. But then it's like, yeah, if we have the music into a movie, that's kind of a classic version. But what if was it Knocked Loose, I think, put out a short film that is just scored to the music, and it's a 5-song, 6-song EP.
Tearing the Fabric of Reality.
There we go. Yep.
Dude,
yes.
Tearing the Fabric of Reality is so good.
So unbelievably
And
sick.
like
Yep.
the thing that I love about it is with dropping that that animated music video that they did, that little
Yep.
EP length video.
Yeah.
Like, how many other bands do you know that have done something like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's just something completely fresh and new.
We've seen story albums,
Yeah.
and I'm sure someone's done. Like, I'm sure, yeah, I would imagine there's a predecessor to Motionless in White or Ice Nine Kills that has done something in that capacity, and I don't know them or the project, but I assume it exists somewhere. But yeah, it's an interesting thing of like, how do we keep growing this thing and putting it in new mediums that we're not aware of? I don't know. I think it's also terrifying to me as a video creator of like making a 3-minute music video is comfortable. And being tasked with a 20-minute thing that goes through 6 songs, and I assume there's multiple creative divisions, and so there's someone filming the real life part, and someone animating, and just all these different pieces that come together. But as I heard Sean talking about whatever his words were, a massive project. I was like, what does massive mean? It sounds bigger than.
It is quite daunting.
Yeah, which is so exciting to me because I think those are the. I don't know. We were talking about how the first show is scary. It just keeps getting scarier. And I think I've enjoyed the sentiment of like, I'm going to run at whatever the scariest thing is to me. And for a while now, it's been like CG stuff. It's been VFX. So it's been green screen stuff. So it's like this idea that it's, I think I could make the Transformers movies. And not that I'm good enough to, but in the sense that I have a green screen and I have a computer that could do it. And then it's on me to build the things and animate them and make it. But it's like I have the means at least to do it. Which has been a terrifying thing then of, what's the scariest version? How do I make that possible?
Yeah.
It's been a fun challenge. And I'm curious to see how you guys are tackling that same challenge.
Putting out something fresh and new. Oh, boy.
It's got to be scary. Yeah. And of course, one last fresh and new thing before we move on there is the Euclid music video. Have you seen the
yes
AI video?
River Pig?
Yes. Just hit 100,000 views, which I thought was so sick.
I was just thinking about that when you said like being responsible for like visualization in a video, and like that is another example that's just gonna live on in like this band did something new.
Yep. Yeah.
They did a full on AI music video, like shot over like their footage of them.
Unbelievable.
But, like just all the effort that went into that.
Yeah.
Like to pull those strings and make that work. Like that's mind blowing to me.
Yep.
And like shout out to Euclid, because I've been playing shows with those dudes like when they were in Depths and Tides and when fucking Kevin was in Construct Paradise.
Oh yeah.
Lord.
Yep. Yeah. It's sick to watch it all come together. I'm glad it's gotten such a huge response, because I think when they were talking about it, kind of evoked the same feeling that I'm getting from you talking about this album of like, there's something happening, and from them, it was this AI video that I knew, but we couldn't talk about publicly. So there's always this kind of like, there's something in the pipeline that we're excited about, but we can't. So it's fun to watch things come to fruition, and especially fun when they're as successful as that's been. I'm sure you guys will have the same luck on your side. But I want to touch on to Burying Point. So we've covered the Green Invaders, covered the alien stuff a little bit here. Burying Point I know is a little bit newer. My first piece here is that this episode will be out tomorrow, which is August 4th. So Saturday, August 5th, you guys are playing the Webster, which is sick as hell. Is that your first Webster show with Burying Point?
Yeah, it'll be our first Webster show.
Hell yeah.
And our fifth show altogether.
Okay.
We just started playing shows this year. We just put out the EP, The Hell We Seek.
So sick, yeah.
Out in March. And
it's been so sick. So this weekend you're opening up for Orthodox in Chamber. I mean, talk to me about, I assume you've played the Webster stage before, but it's just been since probably pre-pandemic since you were there?
Oh yeah. Well, no, not pre-pandemic. Okay. I've gone to the Webster a couple times, like late 2020, I think maybe late 2021, and a couple times in 2022. Less than I used to, obviously, because pandemic. And but yeah, I've played the Webster Underground a few times. Never made it to the main stage though. Maybe one day.
That's the one.
I'm hoping.
Yeah.
But
how does that compare to like VFW shows? Is it more exciting because it's a more legitimate venue, or is it more nerve-wracking because it's more legitimate? Like,
I feel like it depends on the crowd.
Okay.
I personally love VFW shows because they take me back to a time when like all the local shows, like back in 07, 08, just people moshing ignorantly on the floor to your three of your favorite local bands.
Oh yeah, yep. I love that. Yeah, mine. I don't know if you saw when you walked in as you enter. So we're sitting in my basement now. For anyone who doesn't know, and so you enter my basement. There's photos that I took, and there's a Crown the Empire set list from like 2016 ish. And then as you come in, there's more tickets from all the concerts I've shot, and it's the same thing to me of like. Crown the Empire isn't my favorite band. I don't listen to them too much anymore, but there's something to me of that 2015, 2016 of like, hey, remember that. And I think it's a similar VFW feel. It's like when we're going there, it's fun to be in the VFW, but it's mostly fun because it elicits the young version of you that was so eager and green to be a part of this world.
Absolutely.
And I think it's fun to stay in touch with that part of ourselves, and important to stay in touch with that part of ourselves.
Yeah, I at the same time, I feel like the VFW shows have an entirely like different vibe from a show at like the Webster Underground.
Definitely, yeah.
Like for obvious reasons, because more often than not, you have a huge touring act coming through there, and with local like VFW shows, you get like occasionally you'll get pull a band from New York or Virginia or something.
Sure,
maybe New Jersey if you're lucky.
If they're good, yeah.
I miss local shows.
Yeah, it'll be fun, dude. You get back into them with the new EP out. So is that also a Wiseman production, or is that produced elsewhere?
The Hell We Seek is entirely self-produced.
Fire. Okay.
Our guitarist Kanan out in Bristol, he has a studio space out there. He's just getting it started up as like an official like studio where other bands can come record and like.
Yeah, I'm gonna be there in a week-ish working on something.
Obviously, you're filming a playthrough.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. But hell yeah. So that's where you guys did most of it in-house.
Yeah,
and
entirely in-house.
I know you guys are on your Facebook bio is listed as a 5-piece from local bands or a collective from bands. I'm forgetting what the term exactly was, but it made it sound like this is it kind of like started as a side project that gained momentum and then became a real band. Is that kind of how it started? Or where did it start?
But a lot of okay, so a brunt of the members, 3 specifically, hadn't played in bands in a few years. Namely, John, Colin, and Kanan. John, back in the day, used to be in Forsaken the Sky, which became Forsaken, which was up there with like touring acts like Currents. They used to play a bunch of shows together back in the day.
Hell yeah.
Kanan was in Beneath the Gallows. Colin was in Silhouettes. So they had come from a different era of the local scene, which was like 09 to 2011, something like that.
Yeah.
And Josh had been playing bands continuously, I believe. And before Burying Point, me and Josh were working on another project called Deer Slug. That ended up like disintegrating kind of, but we had a couple songs. We put out one song called Welcome to Slugtown, I think either right before or during pandemic. And we had another song that we were working on, but we never got around to releasing it. Other members had like personal issues going on in their lives. It is what it is.
Bands are a nightmare to try and coordinate. I feel like I said all the time, just how incredible it is that any band ever makes it off the ground. Like it's just so impossible to find 5 people who creatively are aligned, who are personally aligned, and their personal lives are happening in a way that allow them to be together at the same time. Like it's impossible.
It sucks, but on the other hand, when you can make that stuff work, it makes it all the more easy to solidify this thing. But like, you know, life happens. Life gets in the way. So it is what it is.
Sure.
So Deer Slug didn't end up working out. So me and Josh still like wanted to do something heavy to like get the people punching each other. So we ended up, he ended up putting it out there like, hey, we want to play some heavy local shows and do something heavy like 07, 08 deathcore. And so that we have been practicing since late 2021, I want to say. We took all 2022 to write the EP. And then we just started playing shows this year.
Hell yeah.
But yes, where did I even start from?
I don't know.
What question did you ask?
I think it was Baker said that when you ever come down here, thoughts just escape your brain. You gotta just let them go sometimes. So
Yeah.
like, if you can't reach out and grab it, just let it fly.
Fair. That's fair.
Hell yeah, no worries at all. On the Burying Point, song names. I'm so bad with song names. There's one breakdown as I was listening to that EP. The song title is also called The Burying Point. It was one of those breakdowns that I heard. And my roommate and I have this game of like, we like breakdowns that make us laugh when they're so heavy that it's like, what is even happening anymore? And that one I heard, and I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about, where it's just like, oh, I heard it and it was like, thank you. That was awesome.
The one at the very end.
Yeah.
With the mosh call.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. It was so great. And it's like, man, we've heard so many mosh calls and they're always sick, but it's hard to like put a new flavor on it. That was the first time I was like, oh, that's cool. That's new.
I love a good mosh call.
Yeah.
There are so many mosh calls with Burying Point.
Yep.
It's like this is what my hard work is built to.
It's funny. There are bands. I think the critique in maybe like the 2012 like Rise Records era of band would be that bands were just built to like add in a guitar solo. And I'm laughing that now in your context, like you're just writing songs just to add in a mosh call 2 minutes in. Like, it's a build up just to release this tension.
We went into this project like knowing that we wanted to write the heaviest fucking most ignorant thing that we possibly could because we wanted to see our friends hit each other. And we're gonna bring the pain to the Webster Underground.
24 hours, I guess, once this is out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. August 5th.
Breakdowns are. I've been thinking about this. So the Lorna Shore to Hellfire breakdown to me is like obviously a significant one for a lot of reasons, but it got me thinking of like what is so cool about that? Like why does that breakdown work? Who cares? Like we've heard so many breakdowns, heard so many mosh calls, and of course the sound that they make is unique. But it's like part of what I've come to, and I'm curious to your thoughts, is that it's 5 minutes of tension building, and then 5.5 minutes into the 6.5 minute epic, it finally like releases this thing. And so it's almost like the breakdown, if it's at the start of the song, isn't anywhere near as heavy. It only works because there's just this build up, this frantic nature of the song. And 30 seconds in, you're like, dude, it's got to be coming. And then a minute, and you're like, dude, it can't be any further away. 2 minutes,
absolutely.
it's still. Do you think about that as you're writing the song? Like you have the mosh call, and I assume that lived in your head, or maybe it comes out organically. But yeah, are you mindful of the 2.5 minutes before and how you can kind of set the table for the breakdown? How does that process work in your brain?
Oh, good question. Jeez. Well, sometimes, like I was saying earlier with lyric writing, sometimes I'll come up with a lyric or a line or like a mosh call and be like, that's fucking hard.
Yeah.
Just save that, write that down, and keep it in a little folder for stuff I think of while doing absolutely nothing.
I'm laughing that just it must be the list of like 10 just vile sayings after each other.
oh God. Just a string of profanities that would make my mother cry.
Yeah, it's just like a game of Tetris with swear words. I'm like, how can we put these words together?
Mom, if you listen to this, it's not that bad. It's fine.
It's okay. My mom's gonna listen to this too. So she'll come to me and be like, Peter, what's wrong with your friends? Sorry, that's not what you sound like, Mom. But that's just the mom voice that came out. I'm digging a deeper hole that I need to be in right now. But yeah, so where does this? I'm curious about the breakdown. So in the Lorna Shore example, yeah, I think like I said it works because there's that build up. Are you mindful of something like that? Is that true? Do you feel like a breakdown can start a song and be as heavy at the end of a song? Is there any weight there?
Yeah, I think a breakdown can be. A song can be just as heavy starting with a breakdown and ending with a breakdown.
Yeah.
We did that for Ready for War. We just open it. We just like straight up. And it maintains heaviness throughout because we, not to oversimplify it, but we throw other things in there to keep it spicy and keep it heavy. Like Ready for War is basically just a demonstration of like, oh, you want a song that's heavy front to back? Here you go. We'll keep it interesting for you, but you're gonna hit your fucking best friend, dude.
Hell yeah.
And to add on about Lorna Shore and To the Hellfire, yeah, that is one of the things that makes that song like so good and iconic. Like you've seen how much it's blown up in like the 2 years since it's been out.
I saw today that it was a 2-year anniversary, and that's part of why it's in my brain right now. Because I saw it and I was like, "There's no way it's been 2 years since that." But
it's ridiculous.
it has,
I remember playing with Lorna Shore and the Green Invaders at the Webster Underground, and they were playing with Internal Bleeding, and that was at the point when like Tom Barber was still in the band.
Oh yeah.
And it's just crazy to see how much like they've blown up. Like, and it couldn't have happened to a bunch of better dudes. Like Austin is like one of the sweetest people I've ever met.
By all accounts, is what I've heard. Yeah, my version of that is I was shooting a show at Hardcore Sweets. I don't know if you would have gone there back in the day. Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Green Invaders opened a show there back in the day.
Hell yeah! So it was a cupcake shop, and all the cupcakes were like themed after like Metallica song names. I don't remember exactly. I can't remember an example. But I saw Will Ramos play there with Awaken Providence, and it's always been the same thing to me in my brain of like, damn, that's a long way away from where they are now.
They're playing fucking stadiums now.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I mean, it's just nuts. It's nuts to watch that unfold, but exciting that could be anyone, right? I mean, it's a quality idea and this massive project to make sure I keep getting the adjective right. It's like that could be the same thing. I mean,
it's like seeing your friend's band get added to This Is Hardcore.
Yeah, yeah. Hell yeah, my man. Anything else here? Shows coming up this weekend. Fire. I feel like it's a good place to leave off. We're coming right up to our hour mark, so we are nailing it. My guy, before I let you get out of here, I've been trying to figure out what I want to do for fun. I'm so bad with hobbies. All I do is work and create, and I love it. It's a great thing, but I'm bad at hobbies. So I'm trying to ask people, like, what do you do for fun? So outside of music, outside of yelling to a microphone, what do you enjoy? What is something you do outside of this?
Getting a good workout in.
Okay. What is your fitness? Is it? It's not CrossFit, but I mean, like, what is your? Is it powerlifting? What do you?
It's weightlifting, cardio, just the basic stuff to like keep your body healthy.
Sure.
And also it's all about balance, though. I'm going to preface this and say it's all about balance.
Okay.
I love sitting on my ass and playing video games as well.
Okay.
So like recently, I've gotten very, very much back into like Fallout 4 and shit like that, and Red Dead Redemption 2. So yes, video games, but also one of my niche hobby, what I really like to do, if I could like get paid to do it, I fucking would, is to build like those intricate Gundam models where you break out all the little pieces bit by bit, like from little plastic, and
like model planes, boats.
Oh yeah, it's like a 3D puzzle, but like the pieces are smaller, and if you lose one, the whole thing's a bust.
Yep. And are you building like is it planes and boats and that kind of things?
Oh no, Gundams, like the robots, the big like anime robots.
I'm so ignorant. How are we talking like a 6-inch thing, like a 2-foot thing? Like
they vary in size by like grade.
Okay.
So like a high grade is like maybe about yay big.
Okay.
Master grade, but maybe right there.
Okay.
And the perfect grade are like usually this big.
That's insane.
And they are like up to $500. It's such a ridiculously expensive hobby, but like it's fun.
Hell yeah.
I love it.
Interesting. Have you explored building other things, or is it this thing that you like building? Like, is it or the ships or planes? Because I assume that the medium exists in other creative things, but it's just this product that you like the most.
Yeah, like in general, like model building, stuff like that.
Interesting. What's one that stands out? Is there like a favorite, a biggest one that you've built? Is there one that you spent 10 years of your life on that you just finished? Like, what would I not know about this hobby?
So I actually, it started when I was a kid. I got a couple of Gundams like as a gift, and I didn't know like, oh, I have to put it together to play with it. All right, this is something to occupy my time. Yeah, because I'm a hyper child.
Yep.
And so by the time it was built, I was just like, wow, that was really enjoyable. But weirdly enough, I didn't build like any in between then and like it's a hobby that I recently got back into.
Sure,
like
yeah.
within the past 3 months ish.
That's cool.
So like, I guess my favorite one that I've built is the one that I like just built, like the Force Impulse Gundam. It's just got like, it requires 3 separate builds, and those builds like fit together.
Interesting. Okay.
And it's quite the contraption.
Yeah.
If you ever like get a minute, look up a video of like Gundam model building or Gunpla.
I'm gonna pause the podcast for 2 seconds and look up a photo of this because I'm so intrigued about what I am consuming now.
That stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm like a giant anime nerd.
Oh, okay. Now this makes a lot more sense. Now that I know what I'm. Hell yeah. Okay. Fire. Are these like based on shows? Are they like pre-existing creatures and all that? Or creatures is the wrong term for sure.
Yeah, they're
characters.
Mostly all based off of like the Gundam series of animes. So like there'll be different models and like it's a whole like
That's a whole
it's a whole
world,
fucking thing. It's a whole world.
Hell yeah, that's so cool. I when I was getting to shooting, I got advice from someone that's always stuck out in my brain. I think it applies perfectly now, and it's don't underestimate the size of an audience you're not a part of. So I would walk past that in a store and be like, who buys that? Like, who's ever gotten that? And of course, like, no, people buy them. And not only do they buy them, there's experts, there are collectors, there are hobbyists, there are people making their own. Like, there's all tiers of people who consume
There's whole cons dedicated to this shit. Like, I found a Gun Plus store out in Westfield, Massachusetts.
Hell yeah, okay.
Because I'm like 40 minutes away from there. And it's amazing, like, such a wide audience, like, a niche hobby would have.
I love that, and I think that's been one of the most valuable things I've taken away from my music adventure as a whole. It's like I don't know. I think about when I'm 50 years old. It's like I don't know if being able to take a great photo benefits me when I'm 50. I don't know if it changes my quality of life. I think it hopefully has financially allowed me to live a good life, but like I don't know if the actual act of it changes my life. Inversely, this idea of not underestimating an audience I'm not a part of will change my life drastically. And it's every time that you hear someone talk about, I don't know. Well, I'm trying to think of an example I'm not going to piss someone off with. But it's like if someone said they were underwater basket weaving, and I'll pick that because I don't think it's a real thing, or maybe it is. But it's like
basket weaving.
I
damn.
would originally hear it and be like, dude, there's no way. And it's like, no, probably there's not only people who are interested, there are amateurs, there are professionals, there are collectors, there are, hobbyists, there are people who commentate on it, there are people who react to this. Like there's a whole industry built around this thing that I'm ignorant to. And I just think it's valuable that when we walk into shows, it's like, I've never heard of this band, but there's someone here with this band tattooed on them, both inside and out, on their skin and into their heart, into their soul.
That brings up that like reminds me of like the reaction industry within like the music scene and like the local shows, especially. For example, the Wham Leg threw their final show, and I don't know if you saw, but fucking Anthony Fantano pulled through there. And
yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That was wild to me.
Yeah.
Like the Wham Leg of all places.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Wild world we live in.
Oh, it gets smaller every day.
It does. It does. For good reason too. Hell yeah, my man. I appreciate you coming through. So we got the show going on tomorrow night. If you happen to listen to this on the day it's out, the show tomorrow night. Otherwise, the show already happened and you stink because you missed the show.
Come early. We're also opening up the show with our friends in Slugs from Bristol. And Cell is playing as well. And it's going to
be a heavy lineup.
It's going to be...
It's going to be a heavy lineup.
It's going to be a rumble.
I'm laughing. That poor Webster just got renovated. It's about to be demolished right back to rumble again.
All of Corey's hard work.
All of it. Every last screw is going to be completely undone.
That building is going to get demolished.
Hell yeah. We got the show coming up. Green Invaders have something coming at some point. So keep an eye out for them. Hollow Point. Anything we want to chat about? Any music coming up? I guess we just put the EP out a couple months ago. So go check that out.
Did you say Hollow Point?
Burying Point. Hollow Point is a song from the Army of Pharaohs. It's like this old rap song. It's always stuck in my head.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what's in my brain right now.
Fair enough.
Burying Point had the EP come out. Anything else coming up that we should promote, be aware of?
Nothing that I can think of.
Hell yeah. Where do people find you on social media? Where do they find you and tell you that you're cute and did awesome and they want to see more of you?
You can find me on Instagram at nofredonlyzool. Follow my bands also on Instagram, the Green Invaders official and Burying Point CT.
Hell yeah. You almost said hollow. I can feel like nothing.
Don't you do this to me, Peter.
Hell yeah, man. Mission accomplished. Let's get out of here before I say the wrong band name again.
Oh, boy.